أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا ومولانا أبي القاسم محمد وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وتراجمة لوحيه. So this was the line that we've been on for a few sessions now. And as Sister has said, we have covered many important aspects of this line, and this line was really very in-depthly discussed by Agha Jawadi. And we have really condensed it, summarized it. There's so much more to say, but because of our sessions and we want to appeal to as many people as possible and want to keep it manageable for people to hear and digest, so we have really summarized and just given the highlights of this line. So the last two sessions were recorded. One covered the role of Aisha and Muawiyah, and you'll see what kind of level of evil that they had for Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam. And that gives you an idea of, why they are so much quoted in Sunni hadiths. And then the next one was regarding, actually, there was a historically uh, narrated, recorded, written on physical pages on a parchment, which was like a scroll, which was with Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam, and which is still with Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam. Today, now, we are going to discuss what is our Shia history of hadith. We've discussed the Sunni problems, that they have many, many problems, especially because their people forbade the recording of hadith and they burned hadith. And it was only during the time of Umar ibn Abdul Aziz that they were allowed to now start recording again. So they have 100 years where really they were not properly recording, codifying hadith. Whereas we will see in this session, we don't have that problem. So the sincere followers of Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam had such a level of commitment, devotion, and love towards them that they took no notice, alhamdulillah, of the ban of the Saqifa government, and they continued to record and codify a hadith. In this regard, we can take a number of names, such as Asbagh ibn Nubata, Abdullah ibn Abi Rafi, Harth ibn Abdullah Hamadani, Rabi'a ibn Sami, Sulaim ibn Qais, Ali ibn Abi Rafi, Maytham Tammar, Ubaidullah al-Ju'fi, Muhammad al-Bajali, and more. We can all we can count these all amongst the first level or generation who reported from Imam Ali alayhi salam and wrote down the hadith. Then at the second level, we have people like Jabir ibn Yazid al-Ju'fi, Zayd son of Imam Zain al-Abidin, Hussein ibn Thawr, Ziyad ibn Mundhir, and others, and these would be regarded as the next generation or next level of reporters who narrated from Imam Zainul Abidin and Imam Muhammad Baqir alayhi salam. They narrated, collected, and wrote their reports and hadith. Then we have the next level, such as Yahya ibn Qasim, Abdul Mu'min ibn al-Qasim, Zurara, Muhammad ibn Muslim, Bassam Sayrufi, Abu Ubaidah Hadda, Zakaria ibn Abdullah, and more, who in their time gathered and codified the hadith. At this same time, we have in the Sunni world someone called Ibn Jurayj, who died in 150 AH, and Malik ibn Anas, who died in 179 AH. They would be regarded as the first generation of the reporters and narrators of the Sunnis, because now it was the time of Umar ibn Abdul Aziz and thereafter, and hence they were freed from the ban on hadiths, and they, in a very limited manner, we have to say, started to codify their hadiths. So we can say that at least their narrators are two generations or levels behind our narrators. Around the same time, we have the issue of the Umayyads versus the Abbasids. Around this time, there was the power struggle between these two groups. And this was a case of Allahumma shghil zalimina bil zalimin. Oh Allah, keep the zalimin busy with other zalimin. One of the zalimin was the Umayyads and the other zalimin was the Abbasids. Allah kept them busy with one another. And for our current time, this is our dua actually, that Allahumma shghil zalimina bil zalimin. Oh Allah, keep the zalimin busy with themselves. Inshallah, they don't cause so much trouble and issues for us. So during this time, we have to salute the amazing efforts of Sadiq Ali Muhammad alayhi salam, Imam Ja'far Sadiq, who took advantage of this time to train, teach, and build the capacity of his own students, who at one point numbered 4,000 students who were studying under him, all of them having their own collections of hadith, imagine, and all of them having this amazing souvenir of the Imam. Someone in Islamic history, Shia is his name. He reports that just in the mosque of Kufa, I saw 900 senior scholars of hadith, all of them saying, Qala Ja'far ibn Muhammad, that Ja'far ibn Muhammad narrated to me. All of them with the same line, students of Imam Sadiq alayhi salam. What an amazing contribution and effort and achievement of our beloved sixth Imam. So this amazing courage and strength of these students of Imam Sadiq alayhi salam especially, this must be appreciated and applauded. Their practice was that whenever they heard any hadith from any of the Imams, they would immediately and without any delay record it so that the hadith or even part of it should not be forgotten. Some of them even carried these collections around with them, ever ready to record hadith, and this would now be regarded as the fourth level of narrators. After this, we enter into a new stage where all of a sudden there are now many collections of hadith of the Imams that were written and being written. And from amongst them, we mention especially something that you may have heard of, which is the Usul Arba'a Mi'ah, the 400 collections or principles by 400 people from the students of the fifth and sixth Imams alayhimus salam, and these became famous and more well known, and they became known as the 400 principles or collections. An interesting question here is, what makes a collection of hadith a principle, an asl, one of the usul, and what just makes it a normal book? In this regard, we have the opinion of Agha Buzurg Tehrani, who explains that a book, kitab, is a general term, but a principle or one of these usul or asl is applied to a collection, the writer of which heard the hadith directly from the infallible or with one step away, with one narrator away. In another way of saying it, we can say it is first hand or almost first hand. But even if it is second hand, meaning that some or all of the hadiths are second hand, and even if the author is trusted and trustworthy, it is not called an asl, but it will just be called a book. This is the difference between the 400 usul arba'amiyah, and other collections that were present during that time. These 400 collections became very famous, that these were the priceless words of the Imams. And then we have to have another salutation, and here we will cite the efforts of the three early Muhammads. All of them were called Muhammad, and all of them had the kunya of Abu Ja'far. These were three individuals with four books of hadith. All of them Muhammad, all with the kunya of Abu Ja'far. The first is Abu Ja'far Muhammad ibn Ya'qub al-Kulayni, known by the title of Thiqatul Islam, and he died in 329 AH. May Allah bless his soul. The second is Abu Ja'far Muhammad ibn Ali ibn Hussein ibn Babawayh Qummi, known by the titles of Shaykh Saduq and Ra'isul Muhaddithin. He died in 380 or 381 AH. May Allah bless his soul. Then we have the third, Abu Ja'far Muhammad ibn Hassan at-Tusi, known by the title Shaykh al-Ta'ifa or Shaykh Tusi. He died in 460 AH. What did these three great personalities do? They gathered these 400 principles, arranged them, categorized them, and this then produced the four famous books of the Shia, also sometimes called the Four Principles. These were, of course, Al-Kafi by Al-Kulayni, Man La Yahduruhu Al-Faqih by Shaykh Saduq, and then Shaykh Tusi has two. One is Tahdhibul Ahkam and one is Al-Istibsar. Some of these 400 principles are actually still in existence today, but unfortunately the majority of them were lost during the fire of the library of Sheikh Mufid and Sheikh Tusi. a question may arise. So were there only these 400 principles, or were there any other books? No, of course, there were other books. But because these four have particular merits, such as the quality of the author, the breadth of the reports that they narrate, these have become famous, and we basically could not have survived without them. And through the centuries, we could not have had our jurisprudence without them. And this rich hadith collection that we have today could not have been possible without these amazing students of, especially fifth and sixth Imams. One very interesting point is we never call any of our books Sahih. So we don't have Sahih al-Kafi, Sahih of Man La Yahduruhu al-Faqih, Sahih of Tahdib, and Sahih al-Istibsar. Why? Well, unlike Bukhari and Muslim, what we say is that these scholars, although they did have complete trust in their efforts and in their reports, they still did not label them as Sahih. Why? They left the door open that future generations should come and do their own efforts, prove, disprove, assess, investigate, fill in the gaps. Hence, until today, we don't regard our hadith collections, unlike the Sunnis, we don't say that our hadith collections are no-go areas. They can never be investigated or never be refuted. No, we don't ever say that. We say only Quran is the authentic book from start to finish, because that is a divine effort. No matter how pure these people were and how brilliant they were, no matter how pure and brilliant they were still fallible human beings. The students of 15, 60 Imams, they were still fallible human beings. So we always leave the door open. People can investigate, they do investigate, and they do assess these using the proper methods. They can be criticized, can be rejected. And this is why, alhamdulillah, every generation of scholars takes us even further with new and amazing research in the area of rijal, meaning the people who narrate the hadith, the chains of narration, the methodology, sorry, the methodology of these great personalities. And as a result, it has kept our school of thought fresh, active, and accurate. Then we go into our final point of this session, which is we had the three early Muhammads, now we have three later Muhammads. Subhanallah. What blessing the name of Muhammad has, sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam. So we have had many collections of hadith throughout history. Then we have the three later Muhammads. One is Muhammad ibn Murtada ibn Mahmud, known as Faiz Kashani or Mullah Mohsen Faiz. He died in 1091 AH, and his book was Al-Wafi. Muhammad ibn Hassan ibn Ali, known as Sheikh Hurre Amili, his book is Wasa'il Shia. And then we have Muhammad Baqir ibn Muhammad Taqi, known as Allama Majlisi. His book is Biharul Anwar. Sheikh Hurre Amili died in 1104 and Allama Majlisi in 1110 or 1111 AH. May Allah bless them all and give them a place amongst A'imma alayhimus salam in the hereafter. What did they do? Well, they expanded even more upon the efforts of their great predecessors. And then even after them, we have more scholars. The chain of scholars and their efforts in hadith never stopped, alhamdulillah. In our school of thought, it never stopped. It kept on flowing forth from the spring of knowledge of Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam. We have more scholars, and some more names we can take, and these are only examples. We have many more than this, but some more names we can take, which Agha Jawadi especially took. So then I will also take them. Is Sheikh Abdullah Bahrani, who has the book Awalimul Ulum, Mirza Hussein Noori, known as Muhaddith Noori, who has Mustadrak al-Wasail, his student Sheikh Abbas Qummi, also known as Muhaddith Qummi, who has Safinatul Bihar. And these all great scholars, they have their own collections, which are all outstanding efforts. May Allah bless them all and keep us firmly on their path, inshallah. So this was a very, very quick whirlwind tour of the history of Shia Hadith. And I think we'll stop there for today. We have now come to the end of تراجمة لوحيه. Our next discussion, which I will try to do as a recorded during the week, will be on وأركانا لتوحيده. So over to the dear brothers and sisters to give us any questions. Right, we have two here from Sister Ali Mahdi. Is the methodology of Rijal the reason why some rulings and fatwa will be different amongst our Maraja? Yes, it's one factor. It is one factor that the science of Rijal is very complicated. So yes, sometimes we will have difference of opinion on some of the Rijali issues, and this can cause slight differences in fatwas, because one marja will take a hadith and use it, and another one may not. Second question, were the writings of Imam Ali in the last session which we discussed called Kitab Ali al-Jamia, or was it the one called Sahifa Ali? So there are different names that are given for different collections. We have, the book of Fatima, we have the book of Ali. One of them refers to the Quran, which Imam Ali alayhi salam was compiling in the order of revelation, and he had put so many notes in the margins and describing each and every verse, where it was revealed, how it was revealed, about whom. All those details were there. That we believe is in the hands of Imam Zaman, as well as the book of Janab Fatima as well. So there are different names. I wouldn't like to right now say definitely this one is that one or that one is this one. There are different names of all of these books. I hope this session was useful. Basically, one of the main points behind this session is never feel that our hadith are somehow um, not reliable. Yes, of course, we never say that any book of hadith is completely and utterly reliable and everything must be taken as sahih. But never feel that we are without hadith or hadith has some kind of problems. No, we have a very rich history and a very rigorous process of how these hadith have been codified, collected, written, assessed, and those efforts are still ongoing today. Okay, we have another question, sister, which someone has sent me privately. Should I touch upon that? He says,
Sure.
Salam alaikum. Why did Imams not write books themselves? Imams did not write their books. Their job was not to write books. Imams are representatives of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They are there to explain the book of Allah and to show a brilliant, perfect role model. Their students wrote the books, and that's how it was supposed to be. Their students wrote books. Their job was not to sit and write a book. Their job was to teach as many people as possible. Let's say, for example, Imam Sadiq alayhi salam had spent years and years writing a book, and not, for example, teaching students. And that book somehow was lost, burned, done away with, as so many of the teachings of the Imams have been, then where would we be today? So the better option was to train others, that they should write and they should record and they should narrate. Even if one of the Imams was to write a book, then there was no guarantee that later on that book would not be corrupted. As I've said in previous sessions, and you should go back and listen to these sessions, that only the Book of Allah, we say, is free from any adulteration or any change. The words of the Aima alayhimus salam are open to change. They can be corrupted by corrupt people, unfortunately. The book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the only thing that cannot be. Jazakallah for your efforts. Thank you very much. I feel it's very useful. Thank you very much. Another question. Wasn't there a whole process of sama and kira'ah of hadith? Students would write the hadith and then come to Imam and have the student read or show the hadith to the Imam to check if the student got it right. Yes, there was this system of people sitting with the Imam, going through hadith. Imam would check, Imam would approve. And that same system, believe it or not, has continued all the way until recent history, meaning every marja would seek approval from his teacher. They would, because before printing and before information technology and computers and this kind of thing, every marja would have to check line by line the work of their students, that have you recorded this correctly? And only then would they be given, for example, a stamp of approval. And this has continued right up until recent history. Now, yes, we have, alhamdulillah, technology at our fingertips where we can research and search any hadith that we want using a few keywords. But yes, until recently, that was the system. So alhamdulillah, our scholars continued that same brilliant yet humble practice of sitting with their students and checking and, making sure that everything is correct. This is why sometimes you find in the old scholars, I was given my ijaza for hadith by such and such, meaning I had to check all my efforts and my writings and my accuracy and how diligent I was, and then only I would be given this ijaza of hadith that I can narrate hadith, for example. So that was our final discussion on this great line of the Ziyarat, wa taraجمة لوحيه. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.